the original owner like found it, he discovered it, and then said he didn't want to let the Union or the Confederate soldiers use it and stuff like that.
Right, yeah, it was discovered
cool.
in 1862 by John Knox. We'll talk a lot about the history in the back of the cave as well.
Oh, cool, cool.
But yeah, for the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
He kept the cave secret.
It's a good thing he did.
Yeah.
They would have probably jacked the cave up, you know?
Yeah.
You can definitely smell the humidity in here.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's dark down here.
Yeah, we'll flip on the lights as we go. At one point there was a speakeasy in this cave.
Oh, really? Nice.
During the Prohibition era. Okay, cave formations. We have here some stalactites. They hang tightly from the ceiling. They're formed from the water coming through from the surface, and they leave behind a calcite deposit. As they drip, they grow, and over time they'll get bigger. It takes approximately 100 years to grow 1 cubic inch. So we don't have an exact date on these, but they're thousands of years old. You may notice water dripping from this big one right here, coming down and forming a stalagmite. The constant drip and faster drips help those form. Right here we have what's known as cave drapery. Basically the water will flow down an incline in the ceiling until it drips down, and leaving behind what looks almost like a sheet. It'll be thinner and longer, and eventually, stalactites and stalagmites will grow together and they'll form a column. We'll never see these two grow together because it would be lots and lots of years before that would ever happen. Over here we have examples of flowstone all along the upper edges of the wall, mostly here and around there. That's formed whenever water comes in between two layers of limestone. Beds of limestone would look like this right here. The side wall, the horizontal lines would be like layers of the limestone. You'll also notice as you drive through the Ozarks, the cutouts along the highway that have been made for the road. All of that's limestone beds as well.
So what is that thing?
Good question. What we have here is a well casing. The year was 1941, and the fellow above us decided to drill a well. At the time, if you owned the mouth of the cave, then you owned you own the entire cave. Did I say 1841 or 1941? 1941, and so he didn't own the mouth of the cave, so the cave wasn't his property. So he calculated to miss the cave completely. He still, his calculations were off, so for the past 74 years we've had a well casing come through the cave. Up here we have some early signs of cave drapery where the water is running down the incline and dripping down. It's taken 74 years for those to form, and in my opinion, they formed a little faster than they normally would have because they didn't have to go all the way through the limestone to get here. The hole kind of helped them come through. This used to be solid black, now it's covered in calcite. At the next stop, we'll be talking about the different lighting systems and the history of the lighting of the cave. If in the 1800s, when if you would have came down here, you would have had to use candlelight. So we'll
yeah.
About that.
Yeah. When that candlelight blows out, man, you're all in trouble.
Yep. There's a good example of a column formed from drapery, actually, though, and so it's a different shape. Okay, so in the 1800s, you would have had to explore a cave using candlelight. Around 1887, we ran lights in the cave. We would have been one of the very first lit caves, especially here in the United States. These lights would have looked like this. They would have been insulated lights, and they would have been something similar to what you would see in like a mine or something like that. We didn't have electricity until 1970, so we would have powered the lights using steam power. You may have noticed when we drove in that there was a steam engine out front. We talked about that stop around April when the weather's nicer and we can actually stop outside comfortably. So that steam engine, we got that in 1887 whenever we got these lights put in down here. You would have put wood in there and lit the fire, and there would have been a chamber holding water which would have turned into steam, and that would have powered the mechanics of the steam engine, which would have gave lights to the lights power down here. We switched over to the Delco battery system in the early 1900s. It was located in the visitor center by the map. This section of the cave is the section of the cave where you no longer see light from outside. If you were to come down here with a candle and say a stalactite dripped water down and put out your candle, you would experience total darkness. There wouldn't be a darker dark. And if you were first exploring, you wouldn't want to keep going any further, because if you could fall into like a sinkhole or anything like that, and there would be an example of that further on up. This cave does have several sinkholes around, and it just wouldn't be safe. So that's why it's common practice to bring multiple sources of light with you into a cave whenever you go. I'm going to flip off the lights here for a second and let you experience what total darkness would look like. You can try to put your hand up in front of your face or anything like that. You're not going to see anything really. So.
Oh yeah. Totally dark. So I'm assuming you guys bring in a lot of extra lights just in case, right?
Yeah, we've got the Jeep lights. I carry a flashlight at all times. We've got the interior lighting. We have the spotlight on the Jeep. So we have several sources. And if we were to be completely out of light and something crazy happened, we would just wait and use our radios. Yeah. And someone would come and get us. So, yeah, we always have some way of staying.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good thing.
What you have around you is known as cave coral. Especially this piece right here is cave coral. It's formed the same way as a stalagmite would normally be formed, just different minerals in the earth and stuff like that that are brought down. I think clay gets involved with that too, the clay in the ground and stuff.
So how far does that go down?
The river system below it is about 30 feet down. Right here, I'd say that's about 20 or so feet. Sinkholes are, it's important that you're careful of what falls into a sinkhole. Oftentimes what's in a sinkhole will end up in your drinking water. The Springfield airport has tons of sinkholes around it. It's all over here to the south of us. All that excess water in the area has been dye tested, and it goes into those sinkholes and comes into this cave system. Underneath us is a river system, and whenever there's water flowing, you could hear it right here really well. It amplifies by a large amount. You would hear the water flowing. Sometimes, if after a really big rain, the water will actually flood up into this area of the cave. It'll flood up to the bridge about every 3 years, and about every 10 years it'll be over the bridge. And it looks real muddy. It almost looks like chocolate milk or something. It gets so thick and muddy.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a look into our lower level of the cave. If the river was up and the water was flowing, you would see it flowing right here. This cave is got several creatures that call this place its home. We have about 30 eastern pipistrelle bats that live here. Eastern pipistrelle bats, they like to be alone, so you never see them in huge colonies or in big flocks like that would fly out like you would see in the movies or something. They're oftentimes just with a baby or with their mate or something like that. Down below in this area of the cave, the lower section would be home to like the endangered species, the Ozarks cavefish. We would have the Ozarks crayfish and the Ozarks salamander, all three of which are completely blind and have no skin pigmentation. They're white or see-through, and their eyes actually have skin growing over them, and their other senses have heightened. They can hear and smell and sense vibration better than they would when they were born. So their bodies have just adapted. If you were to take them out of the cave system, they wouldn't survive for long. Either the sunlight would get to them or they would become some predator's prey.